Hello, my name's Angela Daymond and I'm here at Festival of Quilts in Birmingham, England. I work as a teacher up and down Great Britain, and I also go abroad teaching lots of different patchwork quilting and dyeing techniques. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to teach you how to use transfer dyes to make landscapes with. Transfer dyes are a really nice product and they can be used on any polycotton or synthetic fabric such as Lutrador, Everlon, really versatile products. These landscapes are ones I've done earlier, and they've all been done with synthetic fabrics and they've been done with the transfer dyes. So this was one here near where I lived with sort of rapeseed and sky. This was another one, and they were all done by painting papers first of all with the product. That was just another one, so it's very easy and quick technique to do. Transfer dyes you can buy in a liquid form or a powder form. These two little pots here are powder, so they last a long time, and all you do is tip a little bit into a waterproof bowl, jar, and just add some water. You don't need much water, and you would just mix the powder in, and it's worth mixing until all the powder has dissolved. So that's a green one, and I'm just going to do a red to show you. I'm not measuring, I'm just tipping a very small amount in, and you can see just how small an amount of powder you actually need for this. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got a green and I've got a red. And all you have to do is paint paper. This is ordinary A4 copy paper. It needs to be a fairly thin paper because we're going to use the iron to transfer the dyes. And you can just paint the dye on like this. There's lots of things you can do when the dye is wet. You can sprinkle salt onto it. You can actually use cling film to put over it and then ruche up the cling film to give extra texture to the paint as well. And that is literally all you would do, and you would wait until the paper is dry. As you can see, this is a lime green going on now, and the colours when it's on the paper aren't as bright as when you transfer it, so don't let the colour you're seeing on the paper deceive you. So I'm just putting this on with a brush just to simply show you the technique. Once this paper is dry, you could use it as it is, you can cut out shapes with it, it's really versatile. So I'm going to leave this one now that I've painted, and I'm going to work on some that I've prepared earlier. So these ones here were painted with the transfer dyes, greens, blues, and some of these are turquoise, so you know that's a turquoise blue, and as you can see it's not turquoise on here. This is the one that I'm going to transfer, and as you can see I've painted a very simple landscape with some land at the bottom and some sky at the top. You need to transfer this, as I said, onto a polycotton, and you need to have at least a 60% synthetic content of the fibre. So this here is an old school shirt, and I find this technique really good for using up all my old son's shirts. So it has a very nice recycling element to it as well. When you transfer it, if you have an iron with holes in the sole plate for steam, you have to make sure that you move your iron about, otherwise you'll get those holes onto your transfer paper. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put some grease-proof paper underneath my polycotton to protect the ironing surface. And I'm going to lay the paper on top. Now if you have a landscape like this and you don't want it to move, what you can do is pin your corners top and bottom. So this is a hot iron on a cotton setting, and I'm just going to start to move it onto the paper now. The colour won't come through to the back of the paper, but it should start to transfer onto the polycotton. So I'm just moving it about, waiting for the heat to go from the iron through to the dyes. And this can take a few minutes for it to work. So if I hold it down and have a look, it's just starting to come through. It's very pale at the moment, but it's just starting to come through. I normally have an iron on a cotton setting, but each iron is different in terms of the heat that it produces. So you just have to keep on doing this, being very gentle. And just moving the iron about so you don't get any iron lines. You can actually collage your papers together. So if you have dried papers like I have here, you can cut shapes out of them and use a dry glue stick and make them onto a separate A4 piece to give yourself a different design. So this is starting to come through now. These little landscape quilts make ideal hand sewing projects because they're about A4 size. You can go up as far as the paper you can get. So if you had A3 paper, you can do an A3 sized painting. If you look at the bottom now, you can just see how bright the green is coming through. And we're just waiting for the blue. So if I move the paper, you can just see now that we have a blue sky and we've got a green landscape on the bottom. This paper that we've just used will still have a small amount of dye left in it, so you can use it a second time. So this would be ready to be layered up with wadding and a backing and hand or machine stitched onto it. I hope you found this technique useful, and you will be able to get to play with transfer dyes and use up all of that synthetic fabric in your stash.